And welcome back to another episode of Goalie Interference. Mike, what are you watching above you right now? What game is on?
I'm trying to take a look at St. Louis Blues versus the Minnesota Wild because I really like that goalie matchup between Fleury and Binnington. And I was down at the Enterprise Center this morning because we had a practice with the St. Louis Blues
I saw
Warriors
you on the
veteran
bench.
team.
I
So,
saw you on the bench today.
yeah, I was, in the backup chair, which I felt very
No
at home
towel.
sitting there. Yeah, well, I couldn't find one. I definitely would have done it for dramatic effect, but it wasn't there. So, yeah, it was fun though. It's nice to be on that ice again, and yeah, we had a pretty good morning for the Warriors. They were presented a big check by Boeing, one of their sponsors, which really helps them out. So I tell you what, we're very thankful in St. Louis that the St. Louis Blues support their Warriors, unlike the Vegas Golden Knights, who refuse to affiliate with the Warrior program in Vegas, which is astonishing, considering parallels that could be out there. But that's just reality. So we'll take it here in St. Louis and be happy that we've got that affiliation with the Blues and get to wear their crest and feel valued in the community by them. And the veterans really appreciate it.
Hopefully, one day that will change. And I hope you saying that on this show will spark that change because
Well,
that's ridiculous that they don't.
it's been
And
said on
maybe they
Spit and Chicklets and it didn't go. So,
Well, hopefully we're more influential than Spit and Chicklets. I get
That's
more
right.
text messages. Okay, let's get straight into it. The Golden Knights
Let's
come
do it.
back from what we called a bitch of a road trip. I said that many times last week, and look, it wasn't. It really wasn't. Well, the style of play was, but the results were not. The Golden Knights win 4 straight. They did not trail in any of the last 4 games. They scored inside of the first 9 minutes of all 4 of them, progressively slower, but inside of 9 minutes, you'll take that every single time. They got out of the first period with a lead in 2 of the 4 games. They did blow a couple of leads. They did make it a little bit more interesting, but overall, results, damn, that's impressive. Like, I did not think there was any way they were getting 8 points on that trip. There's no way. And they come back with 8, and they were right there in the Florida game. Could have been 9 or 10. Like, what a hell of a road trip.
Ken, this was 8 games from hell for this team, for Vegas. And by golly, if they didn't come through. And like,
Yep.
I really don't give a shit what all the underlying numbers look like in relation to this road trip because of the points that they got. And it may not have been pretty at all times, but this I can't tell you how hard it is to win these types of games.
Tough
Repeatedly.
teams too. Yeah. And
with
it's not like the Blues didn't show up or Philly didn't show up. They were there. Like, they did not get a lay down game at all.
And just the stupidest travel in the world, like
It was ridiculous.
I saw some of the folks from, the broadcast team with Vegas or from the production side of things. And we're just laughing about how, Carolina to St. Louis, to Philly. Like, what are we doing? And I mean, I do think they caught Tampa Bay at the right time.
Definitely.
But what and I'll say this too about Carolina. Okay. I just put a piece out maybe yesterday, I guess, about how I thought Carolina's a bunch of posers. Okay, now let's take that into consideration. I said they're pretenders. I don't think Carolina's a Stanley Cup contender, no matter what the record is. But man, do they play hard. Well, Svechnikov not getting Pacioretty, not adding really anything of significance at the trade deadline other than a minus defenseman like a Gostisbehere.
Right.
Like,
just throwing pucks in from the point. That's what I noticed the most, and that's why I think they're a great matchup against the Golden Knights.
And that's where Carolina plays to a system. They play to a structure. They attack in waves. They forecheck like crazy. But from a tactical standpoint, the Golden Knights have taken care of that club. Okay. Like, they keep winning against them. And when you get a game against Carolina that you don't allow a single odd man rush against, Ken, I had to go back through the clips twice. Okay. I watched the game and I went through quick saves twice to make sure I didn't miss anything, that I didn't space out having a Jones soda or something. And like, no, Carolina wasn't behind the D once, man. Like, that takes an unbelievable commitment in the neutral zone and offensive zone with your forwards to keep that from happening. I was blown away by this road trip, man. And now, I
I mean,
mean,
it
we're going to
helps. It
talk.
helps they were scoring early, right? Like, there's no
Yeah,
doubt about
without
that. They got
question,
4 minutes in. Like, that's huge. Makes a huge difference. That's a big part of it.
no question. Um, but man, like, I thought coming out of this road trip, we were going to be looking at the Golden Knights potentially sitting
Third,
second,
yeah,
third in the
yeah,
Pacific.
yep.
Really, I mean, and I'm kind of tossing it back even to the games at home with Carolina and Jersey. I still looked at those games and I thought, geez, man, like this is going to be a bear. And they took care of business there too. And that Jersey game wasn't, listen, that wasn't easy. You know what I mean? Like that was tooth and nail at home. But
Ridiculous. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, Aiden Hill was stupid, but like that's been part of it, is that it's been seemingly not just one player stepping up. Like that game, I think you can say it was Hill, but the rest of these,
Yep.
they have. And
Well, it's
then the
been
additions
quick.
look
It's been
like
Patera. Yeah.
Barbashev has been awesome. Okay, he's filled the role that they needed in a lot of ways. He's inspired. That matters for him. But you stick him in front of the net and you see what he can do. He's quality there. And I look at his best hockey when he was in St. Louis was played with Bushnevich and Tarasenko. In my mind, I think when they were aligned, that was the best. And I kind of see a little bit of that with playing with Eichel when he does, because Eichel is so good at keeping the puck on his stick. It's a similar type of player, not exact, to a Pavel Buchnevich in St. Louis, who's very speedy, who loves to have that puck, and it lets Barbashev kind of do some work. So, man, I'm floored. Like, I mean, Philly sucks, so there's no way around it. Like that defensive game out of them wasn't.
They're a mess. Yeah, they're a mess.
It was.
But they were in the game. Like, I didn't think that was a team. Like, we've seen these games where you'll get in Arizona and they go down early and they're just gone, right? Like, I didn't think we saw that. Like, as the game progressed, the Golden Knights get up 4-1, and even at the 4-1, like, they're working to get that thing to 4-1. To me, that was the most impressive of the way the Golden Knights played. I know it's against a bad team, but that was the most consistent they played over the 60 minutes. Like, they didn't really need an elite goaltending performance in that one. They got it from Patera. They got it from Quick a couple of times. They've gotten it from Hill. They've gotten it from Brossoit. The very first game that Thompson got hurt in out of the break, he was playing a great game. So, like, that's the part that I'm with you. I don't want to go nuts about the underlying numbers inside of a road trip when you're playing difficult teams. I don't. I'm with you that you take your points, you find your way, but I still kind of do ask the question that, all right, now we're out of a break. We're through 16, 17 games. What are they now? 13, 2-2 since the All-Star break. Do we have an identity yet? Are we locked in on what makes the Golden Knights go? What makes the Golden Knights win? What type of style they're best against? Like, I'm not sure I have an answer to that. We're 70 games into the season basically here. I'm still, like, that's something that, if you'd have told me they were going to be 13-2, I'd have said, we've got a clear identity. I'm not sure I have it yet.
I would actually at this stage, would consider it that they do, because I think if you talk to teams that they play against, you're going to hear the same thing. They're a very tight defensive team. They're structured. They're, all of those different words that we wanted to describe a team that basically plays a system to a T under their coach most nights. Okay, now they've had some.
I was going to say, they've been broke down, right?
But that's where I think, though, that this perception will be they're a structured team. They don't give up a lot, because historically throughout the season, they have been one of the tightest teams in the league. But we've seen these cracks that make you think, okay, at some point this is going to blow up. And like the third period against Philly, like, there is kind of the Quick effect that I think teams by the third period realize, oh, okay, we forgot that Quick loves to be paddled down and on his posts, and we're just going to lift it over him every time. Because neither of those goals in the third were great goals. I don't care if there's a guy crashing the net, making 30,000 moves. He gave away a ton of space. But this is just a great run. They have to back it up tomorrow night, though, against Calgary. That's where you look at it like, you just had this amazing run. Can they keep it going? Because you got 2 days off after that.
Right. And then and then what should be an easy game, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And Calgary's kind of, their backs against the wall. Like, they're done. I don't think Calgary's making it. And
the Golden Knights play a good game, they'll win. If they don't
They
play a
better.
good game, they could get run out of their own building. Like Calgary has the ability to do it. They're going to know that this is it for Calgary. Every game, this is it. And I know they've been failing in the this is it games. There's a good setup for the Golden Knights to win this game. I literally in the Discord before the game last night, I put in there, I just want to see a game where the Golden Knights dominate on the ice and on the paper. I want a game where they dominate a team in expected goals, in chances, in high danger chances, in all of it. And like I'm officially, I did the research. I'm throwing Corsi out. I don't care about Corsi for this team anymore. I don't think it matters. Yep. When they are Corsi dominant, they win. When they're Corsi shit, they win. Like I don't think it makes a huge difference. So I'm not as worried about that. But I am worried about the way that the underlying numbers say. And you look at that game, and the third period, maybe if we want to just take the first two and say they were dominant through two, all right. But it was 2 power play goals. It was, a number of chances at the beginning. Is that game different if the puck if that shot from D'Angelo doesn't go in right at the beginning where Eichel lets the puck off his stick, they put it right out in front? I just think back to it. And I'm wondering, because you did say you watched the clips of all of the saves in the Carolina game. To me, it felt like one-way traffic, a lot of that game. That is just coming downhill at the Golden Knights over and over and over again. They're getting the saves. And if they're going to get the saves, then we should be fine. I think you're going to be fine. I just don't know that you're going to keep getting those saves when a team comes in and is scouting just your goalie and just how to get into the dangerous spots. Teams have gotten into dangerous spots. Vegas has gotten the saves over the course of the last 2 weeks. I don't know if that's going to go forward. That's why I want the expected goals numbers to change and come back towards 50-50 as opposed to what it's been recently, which is that they're losing 60-40 pretty much every night.
Yeah, the Corsi's always been something of a mirage stat at times.
Depends what team it is. Yeah, it depends what team it is.
And you really do have to have a bit of an eye test to go along with it to realize why it's happening. Because all that's doing is aggregating attempts. It's not differentiating quality, right? Like Calgary, geez, man, they're blowing it up on shot totals, and that's a misnomer. But Jersey, when it looks at Corsi, they're the real deal when it comes to it. Right. So yeah, you got to take it with a grain of salt. But I still think that they've been pretty tight defensively for the most part. And man, I know that I've been, I was apprehensive about picking Quick Up, but I also said it. We both sat here and said it when they got him. He's going to be fine. He's going to look great with this team.
Yes,
now,
he is.
The teams that I want to see him play against are LA and Edmonton to see how he looks, because both those teams have lit him up. LA, that's his old team. And no matter how much you want to beat a team, they know every weakness to him. They know why things didn't go well. And Edmonton has the experience of playing against him and beating him in playoffs last year. I don't care what anybody says about that. But I don't care what anybody says about that 7-game series last year, talking about Quick willing it to 7 games. He gave away 2 of the games in that series. Yeah. So, and but he flipped that. He flipped it with 2 unbelievable games, So, the things that I do like though, Ken, and I want to pick your brain on this one. I love that they're just letting Theodore rip the puck on the PP. Okay. 100%. We talked about making a change. We talked about making a change. I didn't expect it. And you know what? This isn't a big tactical change, but it's pretty much just hands off and let Shea shoot. Get it through. And
is it sustainable? Is it sustainable?
I mean, they're going to start going to him, but for now, it's a hell of a lot better than what it was. So I'm really not concerned with sustainability right now, because the bottom line, it has worked. And if they start to go to something else, then you switch up and you make it go.
I think the part I like about it, just to butt in there before we get off on a different topic, is that I think it is an option that is showing some success, which should open things up. Eventually, teams are going to have to take away that option. And I don't think that that's an option that you can rely on. And if they take it away and then it just disappears, then we're in bad shape. But if they take that away, it should open up Eichel to have a little bit more space. It should pull that box a little bit further apart to open the seams up a little bit more, because they have to close down. I do think there's something there. It's just, I don't know that you go into a season saying our power play is going to be ripping shots from the point through 2 guys who aren't that good at tipping them. Like, I just don't love that portion of it. I'm just hoping it'll open things up to allow more options the way that the bumper was supposed to work. That was the plan. Cassidy's plan was bumper, that will open up options. We work through him, then we work out. I'm hoping that it's now, that piece is now just one step higher. Now it's Theodore on the top. Maybe this will work. I do not expect them to operate all that much better using just that option, though.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. But and like I said, though, for now, it's about what's working, and it's working. And until it's not, Cassidy's got backups in his pocket. Like, there's no way he's just going to say, we'll stick with, Theo the rest of the way if it's not working. I give it big credit that seems to be a bit of a transition from what we'd seen previously, because I didn't think that would happen. So I like that. The other thing is, we talked last week about how long until Teddy Bluger looks good, and boy, these last 4 games, man, I thought he looked pretty good.
Better.
I don't know about you.
Better.
But I thought he was good.
I thought the games against the shallow teams, he looked a lot better. And I thought the game against Carolina, not as much. The game against Tampa, not as much. What was the one that he made the backdoor pass on? I think that was Carolina.
Yeah, and I think, though, that for him, it's he's going to have to have some line mates with him to really go offensively. But he looks pretty comfortable, and
I don't love the fit with Amadio, and I'm not sure about the fit with Kessel. So I don't know how that's going to work. I do think he looks more comfortable in penalty kill when he's been out on that. I've seen him on some 6-on-5s, and they've been better on that. So there's definitely steps in the right direction. I would say, if we're taking the biggest, who's going to help the most in the playoffs based on the guys that they've gotten, it's got to be Barbashev. Like, there are
no
pieces
question
to Barbashev's game that you sit here and you say, all right, I see it. I'm still looking at that saying, are we driving offense through Barbashev if we don't get A+ Eichel? And there have been periods of not getting A+ Eichel, and I don't think Barbashev drags him along. That remains a massive concern, because if it's not A+ Eichel in every single game of the playoff series, then what? That's where I'm at.
Those matchups are going to get tougher. Yes, he has. He still has his defensive blunders that happen, but offensively, he's carrying it. I've been happy with Marcia, so I feel like he's been a little bit, for lack of a better word, hungrier lately. He just looks like he has a burr under his saddle again.
He's confident. Yeah, he's pissed off and he wants to score. Yeah, and like, that's when he's at his best, for sure.
And they need. And I don't know if, I actually think that Tampa Bay game might be a bit of a credit to some of this. Like, it had been already building before that, but coming to that Florida game, that was could have been a real turning point for not just the road trip, but the rest of March, where, they weren't flat against Florida, but they just didn't make it happen, right? They weren't terrible. They just didn't make it happen. But I know you hate that Tampa Bay game. For everybody listening out there, we have fun when we're texting back and forth watching these things. I loved the Tampa Bay game. I loved it. And the funny part is, I got a piece coming out tomorrow about how I totally agree about how the Quebec Major Junior League is now banning fighting, because I think it's the right thing to do for kids that are between 16 and 20 years old. It makes no sense for them to be fighting at all, bare knuckle fighting on the ice. But what we saw with Tampa Bay and the Golden Knights is, to me, the reason why it's still in the game, because there was true passion played on that ice. I think you had a team in Vegas, in my eyes, that also they've been poked a little bit, right? Cassidy went into that game saying, well, sometimes we got to be drug into the fight.
Yep.
He straight up called him out. He straight up told the team.
He said that a couple times. Yeah.
And to watch Nick Hague yanking the worm, Corey Perry, around the entire zone by the scruff of his neck, and to see how angry Pat Maroon was, and to see Hague bleeding and Perry bleeding. And this was one of the first times all year I saw real emotion on the ice. Colasar, yes. Okay. There was real emotion on the ice. I can't help but wonder if they came out of that game feeling just goddamn amazing, right? No matter what, I get it. You're going to say that they allowed 2 goals late and they still had to eke it out in OT. I get it. But because that puck went in the net in overtime and they won that thing, I think it absolves a lot of that feeling of frustration late. And it was Kucherov having a power play with the biggest pump fake under the sun over the point. Like, and hey, Quick isn't patient on his edges. That's going to work. So but like just a sick goal. And I think that game mattered a lot.
Let
I
me
think
ask you
it
about
showed to
emotion.
them that if shit gets crazy, they can handle it. Honestly, I think that matters.
And that's exciting. Looking at how that went down, understanding that it's that team twice in a row in a pretty close knit time where it was like, I think it was like a week and a half in between the two Tampa games. The game here was a wild one at the beginning, and there was some anger, the high stick from Marshy. There was a penalty that they missed late. Like, there was some anger from Tampa coming in. Vegas scores right away. Tampa gets one back. That game had the passion that you feel in a playoff game. The problem I have is that the entirety of both of those games, the Golden Knights were under it. Like, they were in danger all the time. And they end up saving that game because the game is tied at 1. They take a 4-minute high stick. And with the play being dead after the period, Pietrangelo, as dirty a play as I've seen, trips Kucherov purposely after the whistle. Then he gets cheap shotted, also a dirty play in his back. They only take 1, cancel out 2 minutes of the 4, and then Vegas scores a shorthanded goal where they didn't even shoot on the other end. Like, I'm with you. The emotional part of it, I'm there. That part of it, I think the fact that, and like Cassidy keeps talking about this, if we get drug into the fight, if we drag ourselves into the fight, I like how we come out on the other end. I have agreed throughout most of this season in saying when the game and the temperature gets turned up, the Golden Knights come out on the other side of it. That's a huge positive in a playoff series. The problem for me, though, is that doesn't happen very often. And I don't know with some of these matchups, are you going to be able to do it if the other team knows, let's just leave them alone? The Golden Knights aren't going to do it on their own. They aren't going to be the ones that are going to hit. And so that asks the question of, like, will they be able to beat a Seattle when the temperature doesn't go up? And like, how much, because we've seen the games where it's like they just stink and Kolazar pulls the shirt over a guy and punches him in the face. And now we're supposed to be all pumped up. And it doesn't really happen.
Do anything.
You need both sides,
anyway.
right?
You need the passion. Yes.
How do you make sure that the other team's bringing it with you if that's what you rely on to play your absolute best? Because I do agree they do play better when they're playing with that style of that level of excitement. I just don't know, how do you make sure that comes with you when there's been so many games that Cassidy even admits we need them to pull us into the fight, and they're not a power play team one way or the other. They don't give many up. They don't get many.
Yeah, it's a fair question no matter what. I think that, I mean, for me, you don't have to have that every game, but you got to be engaged. And that's where,
need it in the playoffs.
You know, it's not going to be there in every series. It probably should be, but it's not always.
Do they win the series that it's not?
And
that's the question.
That's where I think it has to come from. And the great example to me has been how I think Marshy has played. Like, I really think he can be a catalyst for it, because he's like, it's not Kolesar punching a guy in the nose. That's old school, brutal. Oh, it really got us pumped up because they had a staged fight.
Yeah. No, it's cheap hits. It's after the whistle. Yes.
You need to see snot coming out of somebody's nose. You need to see. Here's the thing. You know what? When Petro made, that was a dirty play on Kucherov. And you know what? I think that helped. Okay. That's the level of mean that you got to play with in this game, Ken. And that's what, like, it pains me when I talk to our like squirt level kids that you have to be a little mean in this game. Like, there's a streak to Petro that he will rip your fingers off if he's in the right mood. Right. And he's a guy that can bring that along. He got into it with Stamkos. They were youth hockey teammates, man. Like, they won like tournaments and shit together, you know, like
Mike,
that's a real thing.
If you need that to turn the game up, like, just go back to that very moment in that game. It was a close game. Again, I know we don't want to go nuts on the analytics because they're on the road. They're in a tough stretch. The analytics were not for them in that game. We're headed into the third period. They've got 4 minutes of penalty to kill. He takes that play that's dirty, and if the ref had seen it live, that could be at least 2 more in a playoff series.
But it wasn't.
If like, so like living on that edge just freaks me out that that's what they need to get to that point. And then like they claimed it was like started with the dirty hit on Eichel. And I don't know. I don't need it. I would rather we're the better hockey team. And I just don't know that we need to rely on that to be the better hockey team than some of these teams in the West.
I don't think that they believe they have to rat it up like that to win games. I don't think that. But I think what
are they going to if they go behind, right?
Yeah. For me, I think that Cassidy's whole point is they have to dictate play themselves. And it doesn't have to be after the whistle. They have to dictate play. And they weren't dictating the play in that Tampa game until, they finally got a little emotion out of it. In one way, it was different. So, even in the Vegas game, or I'm sorry, in the St. Louis Vegas game, we're talking about Vegas, but in the St. Louis game, see, I did a little reversal because I'm in St. Louis and I watch them as much, but
I don't know how you watch them every night.
Well, they're actually, they're kind of a fun team to watch because there's so much crazy shit.
Fun players, but they got some fun players, but oh boy.
But, I think they got a big lift from Patera hopping in the cage, man. Like to a certain extent. And even Dorofeev knocking one in off his forehead, off the visor. It's just
wild.
That game. I mean, Petro scored in his old rink from 195 feet away. So that's the type of thing that you can just sense it coming in the right direction, even if those numbers weren't great with it. So, I don't really want to sit here and say that I think they need to be, Brad Marchand and Tyler Bertuzzi or Corey Perry and Pat Maroon. I don't think that's their game, but I think that they do have to play on the edge enough that stuff can take place, and they got to be ready for it. And I'll tell you what, from now until the end of April, if they don't have another instance like what happened in Tampa, and I'm not talking about yanking the worm all the way over the creek, but just, a game where you can really feel it, Ken, I'd be concerned. I think the coaching staff would be concerned because you're going to find that over these next, what are we at? 16 left for this club. I didn't even look before we came in here today.
16 or 17, yeah.
Or 14, but we'll go with that. So,
is that right?
Yeah,
it is 14. Wow.
It's 14.
Geez.
So,
wow.
How about, hey, you know what though? I wonder I bet you Jim Jimerson liked that.
I was just about to do that. I was going to say we're going to pivot to goaltending because we are going to pivot to goaltending next. But first, we're going to tell you that this show and all episodes of Goalie Interference are brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. The Jimerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms, specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, when sweeping or almost sweeping a road trip, when not being behind 4 games in a row matters to you, seek out the Jimerson Law Firm. They will win you 4 lawsuits in a row. I'm not even sure if I can legally say that, but I just did. Thanks to the Jimerson Law Firm for sponsoring all of these. Let's go to the goaltending. So we now have 4 goalies who apparently Thompson and Brossoit have been skating, so we're closer on that. Quick is undefeated. I'm not sure what we want to make out of that. I'm going to let you go down that road a little bit more than I do because you're better than me on that one. Are we getting more convoluted or are we getting more clarity?
Where's the simple answer lie right now? Go ahead and give it to me, Ken. You had a great spot on the Daily Faceoff live show today, which airs at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern. You can find it at Daily Faceoff streaming channels, and you were awesome today, Ken.
Thank you.
What do you think what do you think is the simple answer in the Vegas net right now, knowing they're a couple weeks away?
I mean, at the moment, the simple answer is go with Jonathan Quick as long as he's doing the best he can. As long as they're winning with Jonathan Quick, you get more like predictability, even though it's not based on style. I just think that more likely what you're going to get mentally in the cage in playoff games. Mm-hmm. To me, that has convoluted everything. like that being, here we are 4 games into his career as a Golden Knight, that convolutes things. And that's what's going to make this harder, that there's not a good answer. There's not going to be a good answer. And at some point, they're going to think they picked the wrong answer and pick a new one. That's what I think is going to be challenging.
I think they got a mess on their hands. Now, what I think is that I don't know if they could have avoided this mess, though.
I do.
If it had been somebody other than Quick, probably, because there's a whole
Patera.
X factor here.
Was Patera bad?
No, he actually had he was
pretty good
in the American League.
Like,
but
he's fine.
But Ken, I almost called you Kenlin, my daughter's name. That shows my how things work around my house. They weren't going to run with Yuri Patera no matter what. Okay, I'm giving you. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you how it is. This doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you believe. They weren't going to run with Yuri Patera. It's a non-starter. Is that fair? You know what it is? It's cotton candy. It's cotton candy. So they were going to get. By the way, do you know what cotton candy is? What you get at the fair.
I was going to say, I think you've explained this before, that it's a fair food. Yes. It's a corn dog.
It's what you get at the fair. There's no such thing as fair.
Right.
They went out and they got a goalie with a lot of good baggage, to say. 2 Stanley Cups, a Conn Smythe.
5 years of being not good, but yeah.
A lot of good baggage. And I will take this a step further to say that you also have Braden McNabb and Alec Martinez, who came up with in the same organization, the Kings organization, won Stanley Cups, like
John Stevens.
And there is value to that. There's a trust factor. But when it gets down to it, man, I don't think I'd feel very comfortable with Logan Thompson right now, because he's missed so much time right in advance of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But we don't know what he's going to be like, when he's going to be like. If he's got to play.
How long? Say he comes back soon. 8 games?
Let's say there's 14 games left.
12. We got 12 or 14. 14. Jeez, now we can't 14. Keep it. 14 games left.
Yeah, let's not sell him short here. But
14.
I'd want to see Thompson play a half dozen games to feel comfortable. Really? 4 minimum.
Well, and
he's coming off injury. If Quick's healthy the whole time, he's going to.
And then how much do you judge them? How are you judging those games? Like, are they get right games? Are they, we don't care what it looks like, you're going to be the starter games? Or are we judging him against Jonathan Quick, who's already got 4-0 on his record? Like, it's going to be hard for Jonathan Quick to fall below where Aiden Hill or Thompson are. It's going to be tough. There's not enough games left.
This is what I said when we talked about. This is exactly what we said.
I agree.
He's Jonathan Quick.
I agree with you.
There is a month away. We are a month away from the Stanley Cup playoffs. That is more time than it feels like. It will go by very fast.
14 games, I've been told.
If Brossoit, I thought it was 12. If Brossoit and Thompson are healthy and Hill gets healthy, what are we going to, you're just going to run 4 of them out there? Like this is a quagmire pretty quick. So we just don't know. We don't have no clue how hurt they are. No clue how hurt they are.
We don't. We know they're skating. We know that Thompson was not supposed to be out for the rest of the season. That's about all we know. I'm pretty sure, from what I understand, Hills is on and off. They know he's going to be healthy enough to play, but they also know he's not going to be healthy enough to be at his best. So I think you could probably take him out. I don't expect him to be the starter throughout the entirety of the playoffs. It doesn't mean he's not going to get a playoff game. Things are going to go haywire in the playoffs. It's going to happen, I'm telling you. But
it never felt like he was going to be the guy anyway, right?
Probably not.
That's just how it played.
Don't fully understand why they traded a 4th-round pick for him if that was the plan. However, here we are. Okay, so I was asked this recently, and it's a fair question. Why are we not just blindly trusting Sean Burke and Cassidy to get this right? Why are we so sure, and I am, that it's going to be tricky and they're going to eventually second-guess their own selves?
Because there's so many goalies. There's 4 guys that are NHL goalies, man. And you can galaxy brain it so easily with goaltending, man. I'll give you a good story actually real quick here, and it'll probably kind of cap it off. So when I was with the Portland Pirates in the American League in 14-15, it was statistically speaking, the best year of my career. I mean, like I was leading the American League in mid-January, like a 936. It was like an Allmark type season at that point.
Did you get Baz votes?
And so, of course not. I wasn't a prospect. And somebody by the end of the year beat me out. My numbers dropped towards the end of the year. But I was also with Arizona for the better part of a season, of a month, I apologize, because they traded away Devin Dubnyk. I ended up being called up to sit on the bench for the better part of 5 weeks until they flipped me out for Louis Domingue, who'd played 12 games that year between the Coast and the A, but he was the prospect. Surprise, surprise. Guess who got to play? Go down the list for me. We get towards the end of the season, and it's myself and Louis Domingue. We're going to be the goalies for the Portland Pirates in playoffs. And I had been the guy there. They traded for David Leggio. I still to this day have no clue why they traded for David Leggio from the Hershey Bear or Roger Hershey. I can't remember. Probably Hershey. I don't know why. I have no idea. Maybe it was a favor to an old GM, something. I don't know. But Leggio had been a good American League goalie before. Suddenly we had 3 goalies. I played the first game. Colin Miller scores 2 bombs on me, power play in Manchester against the LA Kings team. And I got pulled from that game. And I think I allowed 5 on, like 19 or 20 after 2 periods. We were just getting killed.
How many do you feel like you would look back and say, I screwed that up? And how many would you say, like, there's nothing I could do on that?
1, maybe. Like, this was a true, what the fuck? There's
nothing I can do. Yeah.
Right. And Arizona put every kid in the lineup they could. They kicked out a 20-goal scorer out of our lineup to put, like, Dylan Strome and Fisher, and, like, they put in Brandon Perlini. They put, like, 3 18-year-olds in the lineup for playoffs. They just submarined everybody on our team. This was very on brand for Arizona in 2015. Right. Like, worst organization imaginable back then. And ironically, Sean Burke was the goalie coach of the NHL team. That doesn't matter for what happened in my story at all. It's just the irony of it. But so I allow that. Next game I go out, 2 goals in the first 3 shots. First goal, nothing I could do. Second goal, yeah, I didn't like the second goal. I got the hook. Not only did I get the hook, I didn't dress.
You're done. Yeah.
They put Leggio out there and Domingue, and I didn't dress, and I was done for the series. And I was like, and they put Domingue in, and he was okay. But, like, I've carried this team all year. I've probably saved the head coach's job, we thought. This is what teammates are saying and discussing. And the thank you I get is to get kicked to the curb like this and not even dress.
For 2 games. 4 periods. 4 periods.
3, yeah, right. Yeah. Like, that was one of the most angry moments I've ever had, to not even dress after, just carrying that team all year long, I don't think this is the exact same scenario, but I think when you got 4 guys, man, it shows the volatility in the net, and it shows the warped mentality that coaches can get when they have goalie options. That all of a sudden, well, we need to get these 2 guys and this guy and this guy, and then they just goalie. I don't know what to do, and we're just going to put Quick in the net because he's the easy solution. And
Sean Burke doesn't solve that.
Well, see, like, I don't know what direction Burke will go, to be honest with you, because, like, Burke isn't a technical guy. He's a mental guy. He should have a finger on that pulse and guy, but I think Cassidy makes a call. I don't know how to read this situation because there's 4 guys, man. I don't think it's going to be Hill. I don't think it's going to be Brossoit. But I don't know how healthy Thompson's going to be, or Hill, or Brossoit. Like, to me, it's just at this stage a foregone conclusion. You got Quick with 2 Stanley Cups. Everybody's jerking him off due to his numbers right now. There's no way around that. Like, some of the goals against haven't been great at all, man. Like, dropping early, giving away the whole net. Like, yeah, he's made great saves, but, like, I think there's a high chance of this being a bit of a mess that doesn't look good at the end. But I also, in the same regard, understand that given these injury situations, they did need to get a goalie. They were right to get a goalie, Ken. They were. I believe that.
I understand it. I get where that comes from. Like, I do get it. I just think that a lot of times decisions that this organization make are very much for the here and now. And there's no forethought into what is this going to look like in the only 16 wins that we need. We don't need these 16 wins coming up. From the All-Star break to right now, we do not need 16 wins in these 22 games. If we get them, that's great. But they mean absolutely dick the second we hit April 17th. None of the games matter. Whether they win the division, how the goalies have played, what the trade deadline acquisitions have done, none of it makes any difference the second you get into the second season. Why is the view not always on that? I don't think it was with buying Jonathan Quick. I really don't. I don't think it was buying Teddy Bluger either.
Well, clarify.
I don't think it was on buying Barbashev. What I think it was I think they looked at the All-Star break like we did and said, all right, the only way any of us are in massive trouble, and I'm talking players, scouts, front office, everybody, is if we miss the playoffs. We have to make the playoffs. We must. They came out of the break. They played pretty well. They started to have goalie injuries. They started to have more injuries to Nick Watt, to Carrier, to these guys. And they said, you know what? We better utilize this money to buy people that can just be a little bit better than the players that we already have in the lineup. And that is no forethought to the playoffs. It's just right now. We got to make the playoffs. We got to win the division. If we win the division, nothing bad can happen. We've succeeded. And that's just not how I think you need to operate. That's not how I think the Kings operated. The Kings, to me, looked at it and said, we're in. We got to find a way to be better than some of these teams. We need a Gavrikov. We need another goalie. And I think they did a better job of it.
See, I disagree with you a bit here. Like, I don't think that making the dance was a big concern. I think there was full confidence. I think you're certainly aware of it. I just think that they straight up, because he's Jonathan.
You think you're in? Why are you buying a goalie? But still, like, you don't
need injuries, because these injuries. Take a look at what's going on with Gabriel Landeskog. He's been hurt. Nobody knows if he can come back. Okay, like, this is what you fear. If you've got a hurt goalie, you can't guarantee he's going to be back and healthy and good. You can't. And so, and again, we don't know how hurt anybody was. What if Logan Thompson's coming back from a wrecked hip or something, right? Like, you may not get the same goalie. And if you've got, again,
you think they bought him for the playoffs? You think they bought him for the playoffs, is what you're saying?
Absolutely. Right, well, I think they did. I do. Well, he's Jonathan Quick.
People need to stop judging it for right now. It's not a good deal at the moment. It doesn't matter at the moment. Like, I think if you bought him for the moment, okay, you got your wins. He bailed you out of a tough spot when you went down all your goalies. He's done the job. Kick him to the side and put Logan back in there if he was the guy that was supposed to be the best guy. I think they're just going to throw the entire season up in the air and say whoever's best right now plays, and if you're not best tomorrow, get the fuck out, next guy's in. I think that's where we're headed, and that is not healthy in a playoff series. Just not. For the team, for the goalies, for anybody.
I can't wait to see it, because we're making guesses right now, and that's – but here's – I do think we need to give Cassidy some credit for his past here with Boston. He's very much stuck to a pretty strict rotation when it came to season and then in playoffs. It was Tuukka Rask is playing 2/3, Jaro Halak's playing 1, and then we're going to get to playoffs and it's all Tuukka, period. Now, he also had a pretty different – I mean, he knew what he had in Tuukka Rask, man.
Right.
Like, done deal. They don't know what they have.
Hall of Fame, right? Or borderline.
Rask won't be Hall of Fame. But Jonathan Quick's going to be Hall of Fame because he's Jonathan Quick and he's got 2 Stanley Cups and a Conn Smythe. And you know what? I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. There was a moment in time where he was the best goalie on earth. It was for about
American goalie.
Yes. So yeah, I think they got Quick for the playoffs. I think they got him for I do think it was for insurance in the playoffs, depending on these. Because if Logan Thompson's back in a week and a half, 2 weeks, if he can play 5-6 games down the stretch and he plays well, I still think that Thompson has a chance to play there. I really do. But boy, I said it from the
But how
start. There's going
quick
to be
is the
internal
hook?
pressure that it's going to be quick,
Right. And how quick is the hook? Like, pardon the pun, quick. How short is the leash, no matter what Logan looks like?
And that we have no
and really, him
idea
playing
because
is only going to make it shorter.
But I'll say this about Sean Burke. Sean Burke is a loyal to the core to the goalie that he believes in. Okay, Mike Smith,
Which is who?
when he was in Arizona, that's what I don't know. I don't know
Right.
that answer. This is what I'm saying, though. The past experience of Sean Burke in Arizona, Mike Smith was the guy. End of story. That's it. Right? Devin Dubnyk starts to play pretty well. He starts to challenge Smith, take away starts. Smith's got 3-4 years left on his contract. Dubnyk's on a 1-year deal. They trade Dubnyk. Get him out of there. Dubnyk's making our goalie look bad. He's making Smith look bad. Okay? I'm on the ice with Mike Smith. Mike Smith asked me how to do reverse VH. I start to show him. I'm pulled away from Mike Smith. Okay? So there's a real loyalty factor there, which I think is a good thing when it comes to playoffs. And I think Cassidy has that as well. I don't think you're going to see a quick. I think who starts that series is going to get a longer leash than we may think. I don't think it would be a one and done scenario with the goalies. But we're just guessing here. This is fascinating to see how it plays out. I'm hoping whatever decision is, it ends up being pretty clean cut. And we pretty much just see one guy, and it, works out for either the goalie plays really good or doesn't negatively affect the team. That's really what I'm hoping. I really am, man. I'm hoping that quick, if it's quick, I hope he goes out and he does his job and they goes like, I don't want to see the team.
It is possible. Like we've seen the Golden Knights play. We know that they can make goalies look not as important. We know if they're playing at their best, they're going to, how it can go. It may not be on the goalie, but you've been around this game long enough. When we get to the playoffs, you win. It's the goalie had a great game. You lose. It's the goalie was terrible. It's every single time. And it's just going to be difficult. I think it's going to be hard on the locker room. I think it's going to be hard on the goalies. I think it's going to be hard on the coach. I just think they made things a little bit more tricky. The next thing I want to talk about is winning the division. Cast aside who it's going to be in the West, in the wild card. Don't worry about that because it can be a whole bunch of different teams. I think there's an argument to be made that you win the division, you could get the same team as we think now as if you finish second, whatever, right? How important, just not considering the matchup, how important is winning the division? Does it matter?
I'm starting to lean like it doesn't. Do you think otherwise? I mean, I'll tell you what, I'd like to play Winnipeg right now. I haven't liked Winnipeg for a month and a half. But that's the only team that I really look at and I go, I think that's an easy out compared to these other clubs. I think Seattle's going to be a goalie. I think Seattle's going to be a bitch whoever they play against.
Might be.
I don't think the goaltending, but I think that they're going to be a thorn in somebody's side. I don't know if they'll win, but they're going to be tough. Edmonton, LA, Colorado. I mean, Colorado could easily end up being a wild card.
Minnesota could fall to a wild card because Kaprizov's out and then come back, and now he's playing. The goalie's been good there.
And that was what I said the other day, is that I still think Minnesota's going to win some games, but they will not be the same without Kaprizov. And you're seeing that right now. Last I saw, it was 3-1 St. Louis over Minnesota. But I wouldn't want to play Minnesota or Colorado if I'm Vegas. Even if there's a past precedence there. So, boy, that'd be juicy, wouldn't it? Minnesota, Vegas. Can you imagine that one?
No, yeah, it'd be great.
Oh, but that'd be another series where, like, Philip Gustafson's been lights out. He's got like a .931 save percentage.
Gustafson versus Thompson every single game, right?
It's going to be Quick versus Fleury, and that's going to be.
Right.
So
whichever team goes to the better goalie faster has a better chance of winning. But I guess just philosophically, as a player, as the owner, as the front office, does any of it matter to actually win the division? If I told you you're going to win one round and lose in the second round, does it make any difference to how the season went by winning the division or by not?
I don't think it really makes a difference. You want to, but you don't
Yeah,
have to. I mean, it's
it
kind of like
should.
the Tampa Bay effect, right? And it's even the Colorado effect. Like Nathan McKinnon's talked about it recently that I don't think he's basically literally said, like, I don't think anybody wants to see us as a wild card. And,
Right.
he's right. I mean, he is like that. I don't
Right.
care how beat up
100%.
that team is. They're missing, like, Lekkonen's out with a broken finger, and they're still missing Josh Manson, Darren Helm, Eric Johnson, Gabriel
Landeskog.
Landeskog. You think though that Landeskog and Lekkonen will probably be back. We expect. You don't know, but they need Manson on D. The thing is about Colorado, man, they still got Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar.
They sure do.
And those two bastards can blow a game open quicker than you can say Jack Robinson. And that's exactly who Carolina doesn't have, who I was talking about earlier. They don't have that.
Right.
They don't.
Do the
They
Golden
don't
Knights.
have that game breaker. The Golden Knights do for a third of the games where Jack Eichel's capable of taking over. He's really I mean, and there are games where he does take over.
Yeah,
it happens.
There have been.
Yeah. And I think
we don't know what he's going to look like in the playoffs. We really don't. That's going to be fascinating. How teams match up with him, what it is. Yeah.
I think Pietrangelo fits the role of a game changer within what people think of him and how he plays. Yeah. Like I talked about earlier, that it's a really maybe underreported or little known fact that he can be nasty on the ice. He really can. And you can tell in interviews when Petro's not pleased, man. Like it's
right. Oh yeah, for sure.
There's a burning competitor in there. So he's kind of the ace in a hole if they can get it going. But I don't know, McKinnon and Makar, dude. Like, I wouldn't want to see a McKinnon matchup against Eichel's line in a playoff series. No,
I would agree with you. And I'm worried that the fact of the Golden Knights, I do think we'd look at that and we'd wonder, can they do the same thing that they did to Colorado in the past? And they beat them in that series, and they deserve to beat them in that series. I think not having the ace in the hole is Pete DeBoer. He's taken away Nathan McKinnon all the time in the playoffs. He's done it. He did it with two different teams. I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again with Dallas. I would probably pick Dallas over Colorado right now because of that. But let's move to story time. You've been selling me a story through the text messages this week, so I'm ready to hear it. Hit me, the Guns N' Roses story.
Oh, thank you. I was hoping you'd tee me up on this one. So, folks, there's a couple things that have happened in my life that I look back and I go, this is surreal. And actually one of those involved a Wienermobile. I can tell that one at another time. That was in junior hockey, and it involved a vision. And then that's a whole separate thing. I wasn't on peyote. I promise I didn't do drugs back then. I don't, back then, well, I'm a casual user of THC because it's legal in Missouri now and was legal in Nevada. And it helps it helps my anxiety, and I'm not going to apologize for this shit anymore because it does help me more than any
Tigers
stupid real drug that gave me crazy stupid side effects. And MIZZOU. So
thank you. Let's go.
Anybody wants to beat me up over that? Whatever. We got guys on TNT talking about how they do mushrooms and things, and I don't touch those. So here's the deal. I'm working out at the gym one summer, a couple summers, right? And this guy's working out next to me. And I look at him, I'm like, this guy's got a full-on rock star haircut. He's got a rock star build. He's jacked up top. He's got these tiny little legs. He's got
a lot of people say
tattoos. You have the sloping shoulders though, which isn't really a guitarist type of thing. You wouldn't be able to keep the strap up. I have very broad, square shoulders, which I'd like to think would make me mildly attractive. The problem is I don't feel that any longer. But
let's go to Guitar Hero. Go ahead.
This guy's working out next to me. He's got the haircut and the tats, and he's pretty strong, right? And at the gym, you don't really talk to people, right? Unless it's, at least for me, like I was there to do business. Some people it's a social hour, and to me, I just kind of put my headphones on and do my thing. But I talked to this guy once or twice, just in passing when we were moving from bench to bench, and I never knew who the hell he was. And I remember one day I found this article of a guy in St. Louis, and I went, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
this guy's in Guns N' Roses, man. So his name's Richard Fortis, and he grew up in St. Louis playing in bands that some were signed nationally and were pretty big, but like this guy is the Slash's rhythm guitarist in GNR, dude. Like he
That's
gets
awesome.
on stage with Axel. So holy shit! I've been working out next to a guy in GNR for like 3 summers, and I never knew it.
And now you can't anymore. Now you don't even know how to speak to him, probably.
Well, that gym closed, and I don't really work out anymore at the gym. But it didn't change how I perceived it. It's just like, oh, it's Rich from GNR now. It was crazy. But the other half of my GNR stories also involves the gym, ironically enough. And listen, I like GNR. Like, if you don't, how can you not get amped by some of the songs on Appetite for Destruction? They're classics. Well, I had another guy at the gym, and this guy was shredded, like jacked and shredded. And he was a monster in the gym. Okay. And I am a metal fan. Jeez, man. GNR in the 80s was more like glam. That's a metal band, though, back then. And I wouldn't call it just hard rock. But this guy's working out next to me. I'm telling you, he's just jacked and shredded, though. Big upper body. And he told me one day that he was a swimmer, which I totally believed. Like, okay, your build makes sense. You were like a really jacked swimmer. You're a bigger version of a swimmer. You obviously
hair anywhere.
Did it when you were younger. Ken, that's a gross comment that you're looking at men in the shower at the gym to look to see if they have no hair anywhere. I can't believe it. Ken, you did. You said that. You blatantly said that, you bird watcher. Ken's a bird watcher. We got a bird watcher. Anyway, I begin conversing with this guy. We get to be friends. And he told me his life story one day, basically, that he had a Division I scholarship for swimming. And he just blew it. Like I got off the rails, man. Like everything you could imagine. Like I partied, I got into drugs, I had all this stuff happen. And then he got super serious and he looked at me. And it was almost like when you see somebody's eyes go to that moment where you're like, wow, this is what's coming at me right now is going to be heavy. And he looks at me and he goes, so you know what saved my life, man?
Guns N' Roses.
He goes, you know what saved my life, man? He goes, this, and he pointed down, like he pointed to the gym because we were in the gym. Okay.
Oh, now so you're bird watching where he's pointing.
He goes, this, black coffee, and Appetite for Destruction. Those were the 3 things that saved his life. Were the gym, black coffee, and not just Guns N' Roses, but he specifically thanked the album Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah.
Yes.
Crucial.
And the conviction that this guy said it with, I believed him. And it
saved his life, man.
Yes. And I actually ran into him a couple of years ago. I was out at a First Watch, which is a big breakfast joint here in the Midwest. I don't think there's any in Vegas. Is there? First Watch?
Never heard of that.
It's kind of like there's Cracked Egg in Vegas and a couple other, chain places. But First Watch, there's a lot of locations around here. Yeah. And I sit down and I look up, I go, oh my God. And he was our server, our waiter there. And, he had been a waiter for years. That's what he did afterwards. But the gym was just his life, and black coffee. And man, when that guy, when he said Appetite for Destruction, but it was like, you ever have one of those moments in life where it's funnier than hell, but you absolutely know it is not the appropriate time to laugh at that?
Yes. Well, many times.
And I just tried to like, just man up and look
at him. I would have
like,
laughed. Yeah.
I looked at this guy. And
I know it's not the time. I just can't stop it. I have nothing.
And I just looked at him and went, dude, I get it, man. That's a powerful album.
It is. I don't even know what I would have said. I'd have just been stopped dead in my tracks at that moment and like, yep. Happy for you, man. Things,
yep. The gym, black coffee, and Appetite for Destruction. It saved his life. And
you know what else saved our lives?
Well, thankfully,
the Jimerson Law Firm. The Jimerson Law Firm. That's the answer. It saved goalie interference. It didn't save goalie interference. It's the reason goalie interference exists. The Jimerson Law Firm. So for me, it's puck drop coffee, the Jimerson Law Firm, and I don't know. The you know what it's not? You know what? It's not the song that I really do not like. This goddamn song they play after the Golden Knights games when everyone's long gone and they're not doing anything. They play this stupid "Happens in Vegas, Stays in Vegas" song, and I hate it so much. It's so awful because they play good music from the second the game ends all the way up until this, and I'm like, this is fine. I'm working. And then that goddamn song comes on. All right. So it's not that song. Shout out to the Jimerson Law Firm. Shout out to Guns N' Roses Guy. Shout out to Guns N' Roses Saves Lives Guy. Shout out to you, Mike McKenna, for coming on this show. I appreciate it. We will be back. I believe it's Wednesday again next week. I'm trying to figure it out quickly as I speak. Yes, we will be back Wednesday. Yes. We're in between 2 road games next Wednesday. We will see you then. Good night. Say something. He didn't say anything.
Dancing with Mr. Brownstone. He's been knocking. He won't leave me alone. That's a song about the reasons why the guy at the gym, I think, ended up being saved by.
Hit the button.
Oh,
I'm doing it.
You know what GNR song sucks?
We still haven't hit the button. Keep going.
I know. I don't ever want to hear Axl Rose whistle again. You're a rock star. No whistling, Axl. Enough. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for listening.